Hello everyone, my name is Karla Fierro and with my classmate Flavia Saavedra, we're going to talk about identification with social role obligations, possible selves and auto motivation in foreign language learning. As an abstract, we can say that this study discusses the motivational disposition of learner learning English as a second language and another third language simultaneously in Taiwan. Sorry. Here's a presentation overview of L2 motivation. And as an introduction, we can say identification with social role obligations, possible selves, and L2 motivation in foreign language learning was written by Hung-Tzu Huang, Chun-Chieh Hsu, Shun-Wen Chen. It was written in 2014, but it was accepted in 2015. So L2 motivation is language learners' identification with their future selves. L2 motivational self-system is the L2 specific aspect of one's ideal self. Possible selves is the result of one's psychological desires to reduce the discrepancy between one's ideal self and one's actual self. And Confucianism is used to describe settings that are influenced by Confucianism cultural values, that it involves a set of beliefs and regional variation. Social roles, according to McIntyre and Mackinnon and Clement in 2009, highlights cross-cultural differences in self-conception and their impact on the motivational properties of learners' possible L2 selves. And finally, identity as opposed to as a foreign language, English has increasingly been reframed as a basic educational skill, and English proficiency is commonly considered a means of climbing up the social ladder in educational contexts like Taiwan and China.
Participants of this study was an example of 1,132 undergraduate students from three different public universities across Taiwan, 543 males and 588 females, and one who didn't specify his or her gender. The ages are between 20 to 26 years old. All participants were non-English language speakers, so English is a second language for all of them. They have had 10 years of formal English education before entering college, so they have either had compulsory English classes or have volunteered to learn a foreign language offered at one of these three universities. This study took the 5 most popular languages within Taiwan, according to participant choices, such as English as a second language, and Japanese, French, German, and Korean as a third language. As instrument, this study uses a 48-item questionnaire in Mandarin Chinese to investigate participants' motivation to learn a second language and a third language in Taiwan. The questionnaire is 35 Likert scale items and a 13-item section that contains multiple choice questions that provide background information about the participants. Dorney's model also was used as a relevant factor in predicting motivation to learn a language. It is called the L2 motivational self-system. For the Taiwanese context, some questions were modified. In previous research using the L2 motivational self-system, criteria such as motivated learning behavior, effort invested individually in learning a language, and how often they devote their effort to language learning were included. All items were scored by 5 points Likert scale, with 1 indicating strongly disagree or never, and 5 indicating strongly agree or always, depending on the question. 5 different versions of questionnaires were created for each language: English, French, German, Japanese, and Korean. The questionnaire was taken in 20 rooms at 3 public universities in Taiwan, and participants were voluntary and anonymous, and responses were computer coded. Results, Carla? Results of this study show that students are motivated to learn a language as a second language and as a third language, but there are several influencing factors. It also shows that in Taiwan there are more opportunities to practice English outside of the course than for other languages. So for that, in the class involvement, there is a strong predictor in the learning experience and in the identification with social role obligation, which was not the same for those voluntary learning. It also shows that the students have decided to secure a better career, which on the future second language self-image. Social role obligation also has a for French. And for voluntary learning, those who were learning a language outside formal classes, cultural interest was the strongest motivation. In Taiwan, English, German, and Japanese are the strongly required languages, such as in government statements. That's why O2L2 was highlighted in the motivational disposition. The results also show that expectation, personal interest, target culture, and self-inspiration are relevant too. Taiwanese have motivated efforts in learning French and Japanese. This study shows that within Confucianist-influenced societies such as Taiwan, the motivation to learn a foreign language is interfered by the learner's belief in their social role obligations, which is a powerful contribution to the motivation in learning a second language and a third language.
In the present study, the Hung-Tzu self takes a prominent role in predicting the learning efforts of 3 of the 5 target languages examined: English, German, and Japanese. In discussing the construct of the Hung-Tzu self, Karmus in 2011 suggested that the Hung-Tzu self may have more relevance in contexts such as China and Japan, where language education places great pressure on students' achievements. Findings from the present study further indicate that within the same contextual or cultural environment, the weight of the Hung-Tzu self may differ depending on the role of the target language in the local context. And as a conclusions, in the first study, participants share on one social role that they all are college undergraduates. No claims can be made about the relationship between the ideal L2 self, the L2 self, and identification with social role obligations. Culturally reinforced social identities influenced L2 and L3 motivation, and further research is needed to investigate the interaction of future-oriented L2 self-guides and the identification of self roles in the community. And if you want to check the references later, here they are. And any question you have, you can write to our mails. And thank you so much.